Now, over the weekend, of course, yesterday, we got the College Football Playoff Committee's rankings, the final rankings, which determine which teams have a shot at playing for the College Football Playoff Championship. And the rankings, if you haven't heard, were as follows. Michigan, number 1, makes sense. Washington, number 2, of course. Then you had Texas, so they'll face Washington. And Alabama, the 4th spot, they will face Michigan. Notably, Florida State left out at number 5, and Georgia, the committee had at number 6 after their loss to the SEC champion, Alabama. Isaiah, I want to hear your thoughts on this.
This is controversial. This is very controversial. A lot of people, obviously, Florida State 13-0, undefeated, Power 5 conference champion.
Uh-huh.
Got the win over Louisville this past weekend, but their starting quarterback injured. So the team, what the College Football Playoff Committee is saying, the team is not as strong as they were at the point that they went undefeated. Alabama getting the upset over the number 1 team, Georgia, over the weekend. They thought that was enough as an SEC champion to put them in over Florida State. I think a similar take that I saw over the weekend, there were so many people that were up in arms over this, defending it, against it, for it. But one of the takes I saw that I agreed with, because this is kind of what I said last week when I said this was something that could happen, was I think that for Florida State fans, I'm devastated for you. I'm sad for you. I think it's wrong that you got left out.
Uh-huh.
But I think the committee did the right thing.
And why? On what grounds?
On the grounds of the College Football Playoff for New Year's Day. If Florida State played Michigan, at halftime of that game, no one would be watching anymore. Because Michigan would be rolling over Florida State, the Seminoles, unfortunately. I think Florida State had no chance in the College Football Playoff, and that's why they're not getting in, because of the quarterback situation. Had their quarterbacks even played decently, I mean, on Saturday, their quarterback had 55 yards passing, which is obviously abysmal. Had they even played decently, I think they get in. But since they underperformed so much, I think the College Football Playoff said, the committee said, if we put Florida State in, we're losing out on so much money because everyone's going to tune out. They've been trying to avoid blowouts in the College Football Playoff, which has been pretty much happening every single year. And so they said we had to put Alabama in. They're the SEC champion. The SEC has ran, whether you like it or not, I'm a Big Ten guy, the SEC has ran the College Football Playoffs. If you're going to leave out the SEC champion, then they're always going to argue the 4 best teams aren't in. I think on New Year's Day, when Alabama and Michigan play, I mean, this went from being the early game, Michigan-Florida State, that no one was going to watch, to the primetime matchup, Alabama-Michigan. And so when New Year's Day comes and this is a good game, or however this game plays out, no one will be thinking Florida State should be in, because everyone knows that they would have gotten ran through.
But listen, if we're picking the best teams for TV, why do we leave out Ohio State and Georgia then?
Because we aren't one of the 4 best teams.
You don't think Ohio State's one of the 4 best teams? You don't think Ohio State's better than Washington?
I think it's up for debate, but I think Washington proved enough to where they're in.
And so did Florida State.
Florida State did not. I mean, Florida State did until we saw them in the past 2 weeks. If anybody thinks that Florida State...
2 weeks ago, Alabama needed a 4th and 31 miracle to beat Auburn, who's not even ranked.
But at the same time,
with their starting quarterback, by the way.
Do you think that Alabama is better or worse than Florida State if they played tomorrow? You think Florida State would win?
I think Alabama will be favored.
You think they would win?
I think I would pick Alabama to win.
Yes, of course you would.
But I would pick Georgia to beat Florida State. I would pick Georgia to beat Washington. I'd probably pick Georgia to beat Texas.
Well, I'll tell you this much, too. Them putting Florida State at 5, they did that to make Florida State feel better. In all reality, the committee would have put Florida State at 8, and they would have said, you guys are done, but they didn't want to drop them after winning the conference championship game, but they should have had them lower the whole time.
That was a nice favor they did for Florida State.
Well, guess what, Florida State? You guys can be up in arms. They're talking about denying the Orange Bowl, whatever. College football will go on without you. If Florida State's team disbanded tomorrow, guess what? The college football would make millions of dollars next year.
I just don't understand
how. And so it stinks. I feel bad for you, but it is what it is. Your quarterback got hurt. It stinks.
I don't know what to do because college football, like it's a great product, but then you get this at the end of every year, and it just flies in the face of what is told every year. The great thing about college football, every game is like a playoff game. No, it's not, because if every game is a playoff game, you go undefeated, then you're the champion. And Florida State doesn't even get a chance to be the champion.
When your quarterback gets hurt, yet again, I am sorry for Florida State fans. If I was a Florida State fan, I would be up in arms. I'd be upset. But unfortunately, it's just how it goes. Your quarterback got hurt. It's the most important position in sports, the quarterback is. And without your starting quarterback, you can't be one of the 4 best teams.
Even though they still kept winning without him in a more impressive fashion than even Alabama 2 weeks ago. That's what's crazy. At least Texas was blowing people out. Yes, Alabama beat Georgia, but 2 weeks ago, you can't forget, you're saying Florida State, they lost their quarterback. They haven't played well the last 2 weeks. They still won. Alabama barely won with their starting quarterback against worse teams. What do you think? 8772 Radio U. Did the committee get it right?
Wasn't that a great RIOT clip? While you're here, you should watch more of our videos and subscribe so you don't miss what we do next.